The warning alarm screamed across the bridge of the Zephyrian warship, Blood Honor. Admiral Veltar's scaled hands gripped the command console as his yellow eyes focused on the display screen. Something was approaching the combat zone. Something that did not belong. "Report!" Veltar growled, his reptilian voice echoing through the metal corridors of his ship. "Unknown vessel, Admiral," replied his sensor officer, a younger Zephyrian whose tail twitched with nervousness. "Single ship. Design unknown. Moving at standard speed toward the battle zone." Veltar studied the readings. For 3 years, his fleet had fought the crystal beings of the hegemony in this sector of space. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic was known to both sides. This newcomer changed everything. "Size?" Veltar asked. "Smaller than our destroyers, larger than their fighters. Made of metal, Admiral. Simple metal." Veltar's inner eyelids blinked in surprise. "Who still used basic metal for starships?" The Zephyrians grew their ships from living bone and tissue. The crystal beings built theirs from pure energy and living rock. Metal was what primitive species used before they learned better ways. Across the battle zone, in the crystalline command, ship harmony of purpose, Nexus Prime Quilon received the same readings. But where Veltar felt confusion, Quilon felt something different. The collective mind of the crystalline hegemony processed information in perfect unity. Every thought was shared. Every decision was made by consensus of 1 billion crystal minds. Yet, this unknown ship created discord in their thoughts. "The vessel does not match any known design parameters," spoke Quilon through the crystal formation that served as a mouth. The voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, beautiful and otherworldly. "Its construction suggests a species unfamiliar, with proper engineering principles." The crystal beings around Quilon hummed in agreement. Their ship was a work of art, grown from living crystal that responded to thought and emotion. Light flowed through its transparent walls like blood through veins. The idea of building with dead metal seemed barbaric. "Should we destroy it?" asked one of the crystal minds. "Unknown," Quilon replied. "We must learn more." On board the approaching vessel, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. She was a woman of average height with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. Her uniform was simple blue and white fabric, nothing like the elaborate armor worn by alien warriors or the flowing robes of the crystal beings. "Status report, Commander Torres," she said to her second-in-command. "Both alien fleets have detected us, Captain," replied Torres, a tall man with dark skin and steady hands. "They're not shooting yet, but weapons are powered and ready." Chen nodded. She had expected this. Earth Command had spent 2 years watching this war from a safe distance. The Zephyrian Empire and the crystalline hegemony had been fighting over this sector for reasons that seemed important to them, but made little sense to humans. Something about ancient claims and wounded pride. "Any communication attempts?" Chen asked. "Yes, Captain. Both sides are demanding we identify ourselves and state our business." Chen smiled slightly. "Open a channel to both fleets." The main screen split to show 2 very different alien faces. On the left, Admiral Veltar's reptilian. Features showed barely controlled aggression. His scaled skin was dark green, and his eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. On the right, Nexus Prime Quilon appeared as a constantly shifting crystal formation that somehow conveyed personality despite having no fixed form. "Unknown vessel," Veltar spoke first, his voice rough and threatening. "You enter Zephyrian space without permission. Explain your presence or be destroyed." "The sector belongs to the hegemony," Quilon's musical voice countered. "This intrusion violates our territorial claims. Withdraw immediately." Chen remained calm. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Indomitable. We come under the authority of the Galactic Arbitration Protocol, which both your governments signed 6 months ago." Both aliens fell silent. The Galactic Arbitration Protocol was something new. created by the Galactic Council after years of watching the Zephyrian crystalline war destroy entire star systems. It allowed neutral species to enter conflict zones for the purpose of mediation. Humans, Veltar said the word like he was tasting something unpleasant. We know of your species. You are new to space, young. Why should we listen to children? Our collective memory contains data on human activities, Quilon added. Your species has been traveling between stars for less than 100 of your years. We have existed for millennia. Chen had heard this before. To species that lived for thousands of years, humanity was indeed young, but youth was not always a weakness. Perhaps, Chen replied, but sometimes fresh eyes see things that old ones miss. Your war has lasted 3 years with no clear victor. Maybe it's time to try something different. The war continues because the crystal beings refuse to acknowledge Zephyrian superiority. Veltar snarled. We are warriors. We fight with honor. They hide behind technology and group thinking. The conflict persists because the Zephyrians cannot understand that individual glory means nothing compared to collective harmony. Quilon responded, crystal formations shifting in agitation. They are barbarians who solve everything with violence. Chen listened to the familiar arguments. Each side believed they were right. Each side believed the other was completely wrong. It was a pattern she had seen before in human history. Gentlemen, she said, using a term that seemed to fit both aliens despite their very different natures. I propose a meeting. Neutral ground. We can discuss terms for ending this conflict. Why should we trust you? Veltar demanded. What could you possibly offer that we have not already considered? Quilon asked. Chen looked at both of them. I can offer you something neither of you has tried, a completely different perspective. Veltar's claws scraped against his console. In Zephyrian culture, only strength mattered. The strong ruled, the weak served, and honor was earned through battle. These humans looked weak. Their ship was small and made of primitive materials. Yet something about this Captain Chen made him pause. Quilon's collective mind buzzed with thousands of simultaneous conversations. The crystals shared thoughts and emotions in perfect harmony. They made decisions through consensus and acted as one unified being. These humans seemed chaotic, each one thinking different thoughts. Yet there was something intriguing about their approach. Very well, Veltar said finally. We will meet, but any sign of treachery, and we will destroy your ship. The hegemony agrees to this meeting, Quilon added, but we reserve the right to defend ourselves if necessary. Chen nodded. Understood. There's an abandoned mining station at coordinates 47 Delta Gamma. It should be neutral enough for our purposes. As the communication ended, Chen turned to her crew. They were a mix of different human ethnicities and backgrounds, but they worked together with easy cooperation. No rigid hierarchy like the Zephyrians. No hive mind like the crystallines. Just people doing their jobs. Think this will work, Captain? Asked Torres. Chen looked out at the two alien fleets, their weapons still aimed at each other across the empty space between them. Somewhere out there, beyond the current battle zone, other threats waited. Intelligence reports suggested something much worse than this local war was coming. It has to work, Commander, she said quietly, because if these two species can't learn to work together, they're both going to die. The Indomitable changed course toward the mining station, followed by escort ships from both alien fleets. Behind them, the war continued as it had for 3 years. But perhaps, Chen thought, that was about to change. In the depths of space, sensors detected the movement toward the station. Ancient machines, old beyond memory, registered the activity and began to calculate. The harvest was almost ready to begin. The abandoned mining station floated in space like a metal skeleton. Once, it had been home to thousands of workers extracting rare minerals from nearby asteroids. Now it was empty, its corridors dark and silent. But today, it would host the first meeting between 3 very different species. Captain Chen walked through the station's main docking bay, her boots echoing in the vast empty space. Her security team followed at a respectful distance, their weapons lowered but ready. Earth. Command had been very clear about the dangers of this mission. Admiral Veltar arrived first, as expected. Zephyrians always arrived early to establish dominance. He wore full battle armor that made his already impressive reptilian form look even more threatening. Behind him came 4 of his warriors, each one carrying weapons that could cut through. "Steel, Captain Chen," Veltar said, his voice carrying clearly in the station's thin atmosphere. "Your ship is smaller than I expected." "Size isn't everything, Admiral," Chen replied calmly. "Sometimes the smallest key opens the biggest door." Veltar's yellow eyes studied her. In his culture, respect was earned through strength and combat. Prowess. This human female showed no fear, but she also showed no obvious strength. It was confusing. Nexus Prime Quilon arrived exactly on time, as was the way of the crystalline hegemony. The crystal being flowed into the docking bay like living light, their form constantly shifting but always beautiful. Where Veltar brought warriors, Quilon brought harmonizers, crystal beings whose job was to maintain peace and understanding. "Greetings," Quilon spoke, their voice like music in the empty station. "We sense much tension here. This is not optimal for productive discussion." "There's always tension when warriors meet," Veltar growled. "It's natural." "Tension can be useful," Chen said, surprising both aliens. "It means everyone cares about the outcome. Shall we find somewhere more comfortable to talk?" They made their way to the station's old conference room. The furniture was basic human design, which meant it was uncomfortable for everyone but at least equally uncomfortable. Chen had chosen this place deliberately, neutral ground where no one had an advantage. "Let's start with the basics," Chen said, sitting down in a metal chair. "Why are you fighting?" Veltar's claws scraped the table. "The crystal beings invaded our territory. They must be driven out or destroyed. The Zephyrians attacked our mining." "Colonies," Quilon replied. "Crystal formations pulsing with different colors. We defend ourselves as any rational species would." "So this started over mining rights?" Chen asked. "It started over honor," Veltar snarled. "They killed our civilians." "We responded to their aggression," Quilon countered. "Their definition of honor includes murdering non-combatants." Chen listened as the two sides repeated accusations she had heard in intelligence reports. Each side blamed the other. Each side claimed they were defending themselves. Each side believed they were completely right. "How many have died?" Chen asked quietly. The question seemed to surprise both aliens. Veltar was the first to answer. 17. Thousands of Zephyrian warriors have died with honor in this conflict. 43,000 of our collective consciousness have been terminated, Quilon added, plus countless civilian minds linked to our network. 60,000 dead, Chen said, over what started as a mining dispute. "You make it sound simple," Veltar said, "but honor cannot be measured in numbers." "Collective security requires decisive action," Quilon agreed. "Some sacrifices are necessary for the greater good." Chen looked at both of them. "What if I told you this entire war was a waste of time?" Veltar's hand moved to his weapon. "Choose your words carefully, human. Explain your meaning," Quilon said, crystals shifting to defensive patterns. Before Chen could answer, alarms began screaming throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red as the automated systems detected incoming threats. "What's happening?" Veltar demanded. Chen was already on her feet, speaking into her communicator. "Torres, report. Multiple contacts incoming, Captain. Unknown design. They're attacking everything in sight." Through the station's windows, they could see the battle. Beginning. Strange ships, dark and angular, were pouring out of hyperspace. They moved like sharks, fast and deadly, attacking both Zephyrian and crystalline vessels without discrimination. "Pirates!" Veltar spat. "The Void Reapers! They prey on anyone foolish enough to lower their guard." "Our vessels are engaging," Quilon reported, apparently receiving updates through their collective network. "But these attackers are using unfamiliar tactics." Chen watched the battle through the windows. The Zephyrians responded as she expected, charging straight at the enemy with weapons blazing. Their ships were fast and aggressive, designed for head-on combat. The crystallines moved in perfect formation, their vessels coordinating like dancers, in a deadly ballet. But the pirates were different. They moved in unpredictable patterns, hitting weak points and disappearing before either side could respond effectively. They were winning. "Captain," Torres's voice crackled through the communicator. "We're getting requests for assistance from both fleets." Chen looked at Veltar and Quilon. "I need to get back to my ship." "As do we," Veltar said, already moving toward the docking bay. "The collective requires our presence," Quilon agreed. They ran through the station corridors together, their guards following. Outside, the battle was getting worse. Pirate ships swarmed around the larger vessels like angry insects, too fast to catch but deadly when they attacked. Chen reached her ship first. The Indomitable was already powered up and ready for combat. As she took her position on the bridge, she could see the tactical situation clearly for the first time. "Analysis, Torres," she ordered. "The pirates are using hit-and-run tactics, Captain. They're not trying to destroy the big ships, just disable them. Looks like they want to capture rather than kill." Chen nodded. "Slave traders. They'll take prisoners and sell them to the highest bidder." On the screen, she could see Zephyrian ships trying to engage the pirates in direct combat. Their warriors were brave but predictable. The crystal ships moved in perfect coordination, but they were too slow to catch the fast-moving raiders. "What are your orders, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Park, the tactical officer. Chen studied the battle. Both alien fleets were powerful, but they were losing because they couldn't adapt quickly enough. The Zephyrians were too aggressive. The crystallines were too rigid. The pirates knew this and were using it against them. "Bring us around to attack Vector 7, Chen ordered. "Target the pirate command ship." "Ma'am, that will put us right between both alien fleets," Torres warned. "I know," Chen said. "Sometimes the best way forward is straight through the middle." The Indomitable moved into the battle zone. The human ship was smaller than most of the combatants, but it moved with purpose. Chen had studied both alien fighting styles for months. She knew their strengths and weaknesses. "Fire on my mark," she ordered. "Target their engines, not their weapons." The human ship attacked the pirates from an unexpected angle, hitting them, where they were vulnerable while avoiding their strengths. Instead of trying to outfight them, Chen used their own speed against them, forcing them into positions where the larger alien ships could engage effectively. "What is she doing?" Veltar asked from his ship's bridge, watching the human vessel dart between his own ships. "Unknown," Quilon replied through the communication link they had established. "Her tactics are unusual." The Indomitable continued its dance through the battle, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted but always striking where it would do the most good. Chen wasn't trying to win the battle alone. She was coordinating the efforts of all three fleets, using human flexibility to make up for alien limitations. "Now," Chen ordered. "All ships, focus fire on coordinates 127 Mark IV. Somehow, both alien fleets followed her orders. Zephyrian weapons and crystalline energy beams struck the same target at the same time. The pirate command ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Without their leader, the remaining pirates scattered, fleeing back into hyperspace. As the battle ended, Chen looked at the tactical display. The three fleets floated in space, no longer enemies but not yet allies. "Impressive work, Captain Chen." Veltar's voice came through the communication system. "Your tactics were effective." We calculate a 78% reduction in casualties compared to standard engagement protocols, Quillon added. This requires further analysis. Chen smiled. Gentlemen, I think we should continue our meeting. 3 days after the pirate attack, the fleets gathered in a clear area of space for what Admiral Veltar called the demonstration. Both alien sides wanted to show the humans their military power. Both believed that once these newcomers understood true strength, they would naturally choose the stronger side. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the mining station, now serving as a neutral meeting point. Through the thick, transparent metal windows, she could see the vast formations of alien warships preparing for their displays. "Do you really think this will help?" Commander Torres asked, standing beside her. "Knowledge is always helpful," Chen replied. "The more we understand how they fight, the better we can help them." Admiral Veltar's voice boomed through the communication system. "Humans, observe the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Watch how true warriors conduct battle." The Zephyrian fleet began their demonstration. 50 warships moved into attack formation, their biometal hulls gleaming in the starlight. Each ship was grown rather than built, shaped from living bone and tissue that responded to their pilots' thoughts and emotions. Chen watched as the Zephyrian ships began their mock battle. They moved like predators, fast and aggressive. The lead ship, Veltar's own Blood Honor, dove straight toward a group of target drones. Other ships followed in a wedge formation, all weapons firing. "They're very direct," Torres observed. "Yes," Chen agreed. "No deception, no complex maneuvers, just pure aggression and overwhelming force." The Zephyrian attack was impressive in its power. Their weapons tore through the target drones like paper. Their ships moved with deadly grace, each pilot linked to their vessel through bio-neural connections that made ship and warrior into one fighting unit. But Chen also noticed the weaknesses. The Zephyrians always attacked head-on. They relied on superior firepower and personal courage, but their tactics were predictable. An enemy who knew their patterns could use that knowledge against them. The demonstration ended with all targets destroyed and the Zephyrian fleet performing a victory formation. Veltar's voice carried pride and satisfaction. "This is how the strong fight," he announced. "Direct, honest, and victorious. Nexus Prime." Quillon's response came immediately. "Now observe true efficiency. Watch how rational beings conduct warfare." The crystalline hegemony's demonstration was completely different. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, like parts of a single vast machine. Where the Zephyrians had been wild and aggressive, the crystals were calm and precise. 60 crystal ships flowed into formation without a single unnecessary movement. They communicated through their shared consciousness, making decisions instantly, and acting as one unified force. Their weapons fired in perfect timing, creating patterns of destruction that were almost beautiful to watch. Chen found herself impressed despite her analytical training. The crystal beings moved with mathematical precision. Every shot hit exactly where it was supposed to. Every maneuver was calculated for maximum efficiency. There was no waste, no random movements, no individual glory-seeking. "They're like a computer program," Torres whispered. "A very effective computer program," Chen replied. The crystal ships demonstrated tactics that no individual mind could coordinate. They created defensive formations that seemed impossible to break, with each ship covering the others in an intricate web of mutual support. Their attack patterns were equally impressive, striking from multiple angles simultaneously with perfect timing. But Chen saw weaknesses here too. The crystals were powerful when working together, but their perfection made them predictable in a different way. They always chose the most logical approach, which meant an enemy could anticipate their moves by simply calculating the optimal solution. The crystal demonstration ended with the target area completely cleared and all ships returned to precise formation. Not a single movement had been wasted. Efficiency achieved, Quilon announced. This is how enlightened beings wage war. Chen activated the communication system. Both demonstrations were very impressive. Thank you for showing us your capabilities. Now choose, Veltar demanded. Which side will Earth support? The logical choice is clear, Quilon added. Efficiency must triumph over chaos. Chen looked out at both fleets. Actually, I'd like to show you something first. A small demonstration of human tactics. You wish to display your military might? Veltar asked, sounding amused. Your single ship against our fleets? Nothing so dramatic, Chen said. Just a simple exercise. Would you mind setting up some practice targets? Both alien fleets arranged a complex target field, mixing static objectives with moving drones and defensive barriers. It was more challenging than either of their own demonstrations. Had been. Interesting choices, Torres commented as they returned to the Indomitable. They want to see what we can do, Chen replied. Let's show them. The human ship approached the target field slowly. Unlike the Zephyrian charge or the crystal precision, the Indomitable seemed to hesitate, moving in seemingly random directions. What are they doing? Veltar asked his tactical officer. Unknown, Admiral. Their movements appear confused. On the crystal command ship, Quilon's collective mind buzzed with analysis. Their approach lacks coherent strategy. Perhaps they are paralyzed by having too many individual thoughts. Chen smiled as she listened to the alien communications. Phase 1, Torres. The Indomitable suddenly split apart. What had appeared to be a single ship revealed itself as 5 smaller vessels linked together. The alien fleets watched in surprise as the human ships scattered in different directions. Deception, Veltar growled, but there was approval in his voice. Clever. Unexpected configuration, Quilon observed. Our sensors detected only one vessel. The separated human ships began their attack run. But instead of following either the Zephyrian direct assault or the crystal coordinated approach, they did something entirely different. They adapted. The first ship tested the defenses with a probing attack, deliberately triggering the automated responses. The second ship observed the defense patterns and found weak points. The third ship exploited those weaknesses while the fourth ship moved to counter the defensive adjustments. The fifth ship waited, ready to respond to whatever came next. They're learning, Torres explained over the communication channel. Each ship gathers information and shares it with the others. We adapt our tactics based on what we discover. The human ships moved through the target field like water flowing around rocks, changing their approach constantly. When the automated defenses adjusted to stop one tactic, the humans switched to something completely different. They used false retreats, diversions, and coordinated strikes that confused the targeting systems. Most impressive of all, the human ships worked together without the rigid hierarchy of the Zephyrians or the hive mind of the crystals. Each captain made independent decisions, but they all worked toward the same goal. How do they coordinate without central command? Quilon asked. How do they maintain unit cohesion without chain of command? Veltar wondered. Chen heard both questions. We trust each other, she replied simply. Each captain knows the mission and knows their teammates. We don't need someone telling us what to do every moment. The demonstration continued for 20 minutes. The human ships cleared the entire target field, but they did it in a way that neither alien fleet could have predicted or easily countered. They had shown flexibility, adaptation, and cooperative independence all at the same time. As the 5 ships rejoined into the single configuration of the Indomitable, both alien fleets remained silent. Finally, Veltar spoke. Your tactics are unusual. Effective, but unusual. We detect patterns we had not considered, Quilon admitted. Your approach combines individual initiative with group coordination in ways our models did not predict. Chen nodded. Every species has strengths, Admiral Prime. The key is knowing when to use which approach. And how does this help end our war? Veltar asked. Before Chen could answer, every ship's sensors began screaming warnings. Something massive was approaching from deep space, something that made all their demonstrations seem like children playing. With toys! Lieutenant Park's voice was tight with fear. Captain, you need to see this. The main display showed long-range sensor readings. A fleet was approaching the sector, but this wasn't like any fleet they had seen before. The ships were huge, dark, and numerous. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. What are those? Torres asked. Chen stared at the readings, her face pale. That's why we're really here, she said quietly. That's what Earth Command was afraid of. The real war was about to begin. The sensor readings filled every screen in the sector. What approached from deep space was not a fleet. It was an invasion force beyond anything the galaxy had seen in living memory. Captain Chen stood in the main conference room of the mining station, looking at the holographic display that showed the incoming threat. Admiral Veltar paced back and forth like a caged predator, his claws scraping against the metal floor. Nexus Prime Quilon stood perfectly still, their crystal form, pulsing with different colors as information flowed through the collective consciousness. How many? Veltar asked, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. Our long-range sensors detect approximately 1,500 vessels, Lieutenant Park reported from the human tactical station. But Captain, these readings don't make sense. Some of these ships are larger than anything in our databases. Chen studied the numbers. The combined Zephyrian and crystalline fleets had maybe 300 ships total, and most of those were damaged from 3 years of constant fighting. What are they? Quilon asked, crystal formations shifting into patterns that conveyed deep concern. Chen took a deep breath. Earth Command calls them the Devourer Swarm. They're machines, not living beings. Ancient artificial intelligence that consumes entire star systems for raw materials. You knew of this threat? Veltar snarled, spinning to face her. Why did you not warn us? We suspected, Chen replied calmly. Our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual activity on the galactic rim 6 months ago. Ships disappearing. Colonies going silent. Entire systems going dark. But we needed proof. The harvest pattern, Quilon spoke, their voice like crystal chimes in a winter wind. We detected similar anomalies, but attributed them to natural disasters, or pirates. Chen nodded grimly. The swarm is smart. They've been using your war as a distraction. While you fought each other, they picked off undefended worlds one by one. Now they're strong enough to take on both your fleets directly. How long do we have? Veltar asked, his warrior instincts taking over. At current speed, they'll reach this sector in 18 hours, Park reported. Veltar's laugh was bitter. 18 hours to prepare for 1,500 enemy ships. Impossible. Odds. The mathematical probability of survival is less than 3%, Quilon calculated aloud. Even if both our fleets combined perfectly, we lack sufficient firepower. Chen looked at both alien leaders. That's why we're here. Earth has been developing anti-swarm technology for months. The Indomitable isn't just a diplomatic vessel, it's a test platform for weapons designed specifically to fight these machines. 1. Ship against 1,500? Veltar shook his head. Even human tactics cannot overcome such numbers. You're right, Chen agreed. One ship can't win this battle, but 3 fleets working together might have a chance. Cooperation between our species has proven difficult, Quilon observed. Our tactical doctrines are incompatible. Our fighting styles are completely different, Veltar added. Zephyrians fight with honor and courage. Crystals fight with precision and calculation. How can such opposites work together? Chen walked to the tactical display and highlighted different sections of the approaching swarm. Because different fighting styles aren't a weakness, they're a strength. The swarm's artificial intelligence learns from each battle. It adapts to whatever tactics it faces, but it can only adapt to patterns it understands. Explain, Quilon requested. The swarm has fought species like you before, Chen continued. It knows how to counter direct assault tactics. It knows how to disrupt coordinated formations, but it's never fought species that work together while maintaining their individual strengths. Veltar's eyes narrowed. You want us to fight as one fleet? No, Chen said. I want you to fight as 3 different fleets that support each other. The swarm will try to adapt to your tactics, but if you keep changing approaches, keep supporting each other in unexpected ways, it won't be able to lock onto a pattern. The concept has merit, Quilon admitted, but implementation would require unprecedented cooperation. It would require trust, Chen said simply. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Zephyrians trusted only strength and honor. Crystals trusted only logic and consensus. Humans seemed to trust each other despite their obvious differences. Trust, Veltar repeated, between species who have been enemies for 3 years. Trust earned through action, Chen replied. Like 3 days ago when we fought the pirates together. Quilon's crystal form shifted. Our analysis of that engagement shows improved efficiency when human tactical coordination was accepted. But this threat is exponentially greater. The risks are enormous, Chen agreed. If we fail, all 3 of our species could be wiped out. But if we don't try, we'll definitely be wiped out. An alarm chimed softly. Captain, Park called out. I'm getting detailed scans of the lead swarm ships. You need to see this. The holographic display zoomed in on the closest enemy vessels. They were massive, dark constructs that looked more grown than built. Strange organic-looking curves mixed with mechanical precision, as if machines had learned to mimic life. They're beautiful, Quilon whispered. They're terrifying, Veltar corrected. Chen studied the ships carefully. They're both, and that's what makes them so dangerous. The swarm doesn't just build machines, it absorbs characteristics from every species it defeats. Those curves, they probably came from conquering a species like yours, Quilon. Those aggressive weapon placements? From warriors like you, Veltar. It learns from its victims, Veltar said quietly. It becomes stronger with each victory, Quilon added. Exactly, Chen said. Which is why it's never faced anything like what we can do together. The next few hours passed in intense planning. The 3 species had to learn to coordinate their completely different approaches to warfare. Zephyrian ships were built for individual combat, with bio-neural links that made each vessel an extension of its pilot's will. Crystal ships worked through shared consciousness, moving with perfect coordination but limited flexibility. Human ships were different again. They relied on trained crews working together, each person contributing their expertise while maintaining individual initiative. It was organized chaos compared to the rigid structures of the other species. The hardest part will be the first engagement, Chen explained as they finalized the battle plan. The swarm will try to analyze our tactics immediately. We need to give it so many different approaches that it can't lock onto any single pattern. Zephyrian ships will lead the initial assault, Veltar declared. We will draw their attention and their fire. Crystal formations will provide coordinated support, Quilon added. Our weapons can strike with mathematical precision once targets are identified. And human ships will adapt the plan in real time, Chen finished. We'll coordinate between both your approaches and cover gaps as they appear. It sounded simple in theory. In practice, it would require each species to act against their basic instincts. Zephyrians would have to follow orders from non-warriors. Crystals would have to accept chaos and improvisation. Humans would have to trust allies they barely knew. There's something else, Chen said as the meeting prepared to end. The swarm ships we're seeing aren't just scouts. Based on their formation and approach pattern, they're a harvesting fleet. They're not planning to destroy this sector. They want to capture it intact. For what purpose? Veltar asked. Chen looked at the tactical display, studying the estimated arrival times and approach vectors. They want your ships, your technology, your tactical knowledge. This isn't just an invasion, it's a shopping trip. They want to add Zephyrian and crystalline capabilities to their collective. Then we must deny them that victory, Quilon said, crystal formations hardening into resolve. We will, Veltar growled. They will learn that some prey fights back. Chen nodded, but privately she wondered if they were already too late. The swarm had been preparing for this battle for months, maybe years. They had observed both alien species, studied their strengths and weaknesses, planned for every contingency, but they hadn't planned for humans. And they certainly hadn't planned for what three species could accomplish when they worked together. The real test would come in 12 hours when the Devourer swarm arrived and the battle for the sector began. The Devourer swarm arrived exactly when predicted, emerging from hyperspace like a dark tide of metal and malice. Captain Chen watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as 1,500 enemy ships took positions throughout the sector. They moved with perfect coordination, but it was different from the crystal being's unity. This was the cold efficiency of machines. All ships report ready, Commander Torres announced from his station. Chen looked at the tactical display. The combined fleet was tiny compared to what they faced. 112 Zephyrian ships, 98 crystalline vessels, and the single human ship. Against 1,500 swarm vessels, some larger than space stations. Admiral Veltar, Nexus Prime Quilon. This is Captain Chen, she spoke into the communication system. Are your fleets ready? Zephyrian warriors are always ready, Veltar replied, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. The hegemony stands prepared, Quilon confirmed. All collective minds are focused on the coming battle. Chen took a deep breath. The next few hours would determine whether three species lived or died. More than that, they would determine whether the galaxy had any hope against the swarm's expansion. Remember the plan, Chen said. We're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We're trying to hurt them badly enough that they retreat and give us time to prepare proper defenses. The first swarm ships began moving toward them. They were huge things, dark and angular, with weapons that could crack planets. But they moved slowly, methodically, analyzing everything as they approached. Phase 1 begins now, Chen ordered. The Zephyrian fleet charged. It was a magnificent sight. Over 100 bioships racing toward the enemy like a pack of hunting predators. Admiral Veltar's Blood Honor led the charge, its living hull gleaming in the starlight. The swarm responded exactly as predicted. Their larger ships moved to intercept while smaller vessels positioned themselves for crossfire. It was efficient, logical, and completely expected. That's when the crystal ship struck. The crystalline hegemony's vessels emerged from behind asteroid cover in perfect formation. Their weapons fired in synchronized volleys, striking the swarm ships at precisely calculated weak points. The machine ships hadn't expected the coordinated assault from a second direction. Several swarm vessels exploded, their dark hulls cracking like broken glass. But the machines adapted quickly, repositioning to counter both the Zephyrian charge and the crystal precision strikes. Now comes the hard part, Chen muttered. The battle began in earnest. Zephyrian ships dove into close combat, their bioneural pilots linking with their vessels to become living weapons. Crystal ships maintained formation, providing covering fire and tactical support. It should have been a perfect combination. Instead, it was a disaster. The Zephyrians fought as they always fought, individually and aggressively. When they needed support, they expected it immediately. The crystals fought as they always fought, collectively and precisely. When the battle plan changed, they needed time to achieve consensus. The two approaches conflicted with each other. Zephyrian ships found themselves without backup when crystal formations were still calculating optimal responses. Crystal ships lost coordination when Zephyrian warriors made unexpected maneuvers. Captain, we're losing ships fast, Torres reported. "The aliens can't coordinate effectively under pressure." Chen watched the tactical display with growing concern. The swarm was methodically destroying the Allied fleet, learning from each engagement. Soon, they would have enough data to predict and counter every move. "Admiral Veltar, your ships are taking heavy casualties," Chen transmitted. "Warriors die with honor," Veltar replied, but she could hear the frustration in his voice. "But the crystal beings are too slow to support our attacks." "Prime Quilon, your formations are breaking apart," Chen continued. "The Zephyrians deviate from planned coordination," Quilon responded. "Their individual actions disrupt collective strategy." It was exactly what Chen had feared. Under the stress of real combat, both species were reverting to their basic instincts. The cooperation they had practiced was falling apart. "Torres, prepare for Emergency Maneuver 7, Chen ordered. "Captain, that's a suicide run," Torres protested. "Sometimes that's what leadership requires," Chen replied. "All human ships follow, my lead." The Indomitable broke from its support position and dove directly toward the largest swarm command vessel. It was a massive thing, easily 10 times the size of any Allied ship. Its weapons could vaporize the human vessel with a single shot. "What is she doing?" Veltar demanded over the communication channel. "Unknown," Quilon replied. "Her trajectory suggests certain destruction." The swarm command ship turned its massive weapons toward the approaching human vessel. At this range, there was no way to miss and no way to survive. At the last possible second, the Indomitable seemed to flicker and phase through the enemy ship like a ghost. For a moment, the human vessel was inside the swarm command ship. Then it emerged on the other side, apparently undamaged, but something had changed. The command ship's movements became erratic. Its coordination with other swarm vessels faltered. "How?" Veltar asked. "Experimental phasing technology," Chen explained, her voice shaking slightly from the stress of the maneuver. "We delivered a computer virus directly to their central processing core. The effect rippled through the swarm fleet. Without perfect coordination, their efficiency dropped dramatically. But more importantly, something else had happened. Both alien fleets had watched a human captain risk everything to strike at the enemy's heart. They had seen her willing to sacrifice herself for the mission. "All ships follow the human lead," Veltar ordered his fleet. "If she can show such courage, so can we. Collective decision. Support human tactical coordination," Quilon announced. "Individual sacrifice for group benefit is admirable." The battle changed. Instead of fighting as separate fleets with conflicting styles, all 3 species began working together. Zephyrian ships provided the aggression and individual initiative. Crystal ships provided the coordination and precision. Human ships provided the adaptability and tactical flexibility that held everything together. When Zephyrian warriors charged ahead of the plan, crystal ships adapted their support patterns to cover them. When crystal formations needed time to reposition, Zephyrian ships bought that time with fierce attacks. When both alien approaches failed, human ships found new solutions and shared them with their allies. The swarm found itself facing something it had never encountered before. Not just 3 different tactical approaches, but 3 approaches that supported and enhanced each other. Every time the machines adapted to one style, another style would exploit the adaptation. More importantly, the combined fleet was learning and adapting faster than the machines could process. Human flexibility, Zephyrian courage, and crystal precision created a tactical evolution that the swarm's algorithms couldn't match. "Target their resource processors," Chen ordered. "If we can damage their ability to repair and replace losses, we might force a retreat." The combined fleet struck in waves. Zephyrian ships cleared the way with aggressive assaults. Crystal ships provided precise targeting data. Human ships coordinated the overall attack pattern and adapted it in real time. One by one, the swarm's massive resource ships began to explode. These were the vessels that turned raw materials into new swarm units. Without them, the machines couldn't replace their losses. After 6 hours of continuous battle, something unprecedented happened. The swarm began to retreat. "They're withdrawing," Torres reported, hardly believing his own sensors. "Impossible," Veltar breathed. "Machine intelligences don't retreat." "Correction," Quillon said. "Machine intelligences retreat when continued engagement becomes counterproductive to their goals." Chen watched the massive enemy fleet withdraw toward hyperspace. They had lost nearly 200 ships, but the Allied fleet had lost almost 50. It was a costly victory, but it was a victory. "This is just the beginning," Chen said as the last swarm ships disappeared. "They'll be back with better strategies and more ships." "Then we'll be ready," Veltar declared. "The 3 fleets will train together, fight together." "Agreed," Quillon added. "Collective strength through cooperative diversity has proven effective." 3 months later, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the new flagship Unity, a vessel built using technology from all 3 species. The Kepler Defense Alliance had grown to include dozens of other species, all learning to work together against the swarm threat. The Zephyrians had learned that true honor sometimes meant following orders and suppressing individual glory for the greater good. The crystals had learned that perfect coordination could include controlled chaos and individual initiative. And humanity had learned that their greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their tactics, but their ability to bring out the best in others. The next swarm attack would come eventually, but when it did, they would face not separate fleets fighting alone, but a truly united galaxy where every species' strengths were multiplied by cooperation. Chen smiled as she looked out at the mixed fleet patrolling the sector. Different ship, designs, different species, different ways of thinking, all working toward the same goal. In the end, that's what being human really meant. Bringing together those